The Strategy of Information with Nick Inglis, on infogov.net. On today's The Strategy of Information, Nick Inglis talks with Colligo CEO and former financial research analyst in the space, Tim Brady. We'll be talking about the financial prospects of the information profession, the growth of his firm Colligo, and how Tim just couldn't sit on the sidelines of this incredible information profession. Stay tuned for a fascinating and rare discussion about the growth and financial potential of the information profession and a glimpse behind the curtain at one of the fastest growing software companies in the space, Colligo. It's an interesting conversation on the dollars and good sense of the information profession with Colligo CEO, Tim Brady on today's episode of The Strategy of Information with Nick Inglis, on infogov.net.
The information profession is a growing profession, but a lot of its growth has been obscured by its wide fragmentation. Much of our growth is currently attributed to subsectors, which makes it difficult to look at from a financial perspective. So today, we'll be talking with someone who knows the financial aspects of this industry better than most anyone else. Our guest today was a research analyst assigned to the information space, and as his career as an analyst was taking off, he took a different path. He decided to move from analyst to investor and bought one of the leading companies in the Microsoft partner ecosystem in early 2020. Since the acquisition, our guest today, Colligo CEO Tim Brady, has gotten to work, and Colligo is on the precipice of becoming an incredible success story in the information space. I'm very excited for you to hear more about the financial side of the information profession while not losing that boots on the ground perspective of our guest for today's episode of The Strategy of Information, Colligo CEO Tim Brady.
Hey Tim, welcome to The Strategy of Information.
Hey Nick, good to be here.
Tim Brady, you're the CEO of Colligo out of Vancouver. Your products, they extend the capabilities of SharePoint and Microsoft 365. Some really creative, interesting, and incredibly helpful ways for companies in working through their business processes. Colligo itself has been around for about 20 years. You've got hundreds of customers. Tim, at a high level, what's your team doing to help companies in their management of their information within the Microsoft environment?
Yeah, so if you step back and think about what the problem we ultimately solve is we help integrate the Microsoft 365 suite. Microsoft, obviously known for putting out bellwether products on the market, whether that's SharePoint, Outlook, Teams, Dynamics. We help integrate that suite and make it more usable and accessible for the knowledge worker.
Brilliant. And Tim, you're leading, one of the top companies, one of the most respected companies in the information space. Your career has been a very interesting career, not the typical path that people end up in the information profession. So how did you end up here?
Yeah, you're certainly right there. I definitely took a different path than most take to the information management and governance field. But no, so it's been quite a journey. I mean, I ultimately started in the investment side of the world, and when I began at one of the big banks in Canada, RBC, my career, I wanted to be in the software space, and luckily I worked for an analyst when I was green and just out of school who covered a lot of the enterprise content management companies in Canada and abroad and whatnot. And so I really just went deep and spent we like to call it 20 hours a day studying that space and the companies and the drivers and the market dynamics, and spent probably 3 years doing that with the analyst there. And it was something initially that I didn't know was going to be where I'd end up, but now looking back, it was, if I could have planned it, that was the way I would have probably drawn it up. And from there, I ultimately went to a hedge fund and ran our Canadian technology investments there. Again, continuing that trend. It was just kind of my sweet spot was the content management market, and met with hundreds of CEOs over a number of years and was able to figure out the ins and outs of the industry quite well. And so when the chance came up to leap to the other side of the table and actually help customers with these problems, I had to go take it. So
I love that story because it also dovetails quite nicely with our overall understanding of, I think a lot of people see that there are some incredible opportunities here within the information space. There's a lot of run room in terms of future growth. So with that financial background, entering the information space because of those opportunities, what first really got you onto the potential of the opportunities that exist within the information space?
Yeah, I think you nailed it in your question there. I mean, it's probably one of the hottest markets in the world right now. Content services, content management in general, information management. Every company in the world has information that is, a critical asset. And so the solutions and tools available in the market presents a massive opportunity. Many companies are using legacy systems that were installed 20 years ago when software was the custom route, and since then the whole world's transitioned to SaaS, and this perhaps presents even the bigger opportunity is modernizing these firms onto cloud solutions and cloud infrastructure. And so it's really those two things, right? The content services market on its own being massive, and then the once in a generational upgrade cycle taking place to move to a cloud model and digitalize their overall tech stack. Presents just some massive opportunity in information management.
Yeah, and you at Colligo have really taken advantage of a lot of that opportunity and seen some massive growth over your tenure, which is just great to see, frankly. My early days in the SharePoint space, I remember Colligo being a small and growing company in the space, and it's really great to see it blossom under your leadership. Shifting gears here just a little bit, what's one thing you wish you had known, looking back over your career from the living in the information space and leading one of the top companies through to the financial side of evaluation and understanding investments? What's one thing you wish you knew early on in your career that you know now? I'm sort of putting you on the spot with this one, I know.
Yeah, no, it's quite an interesting question. I actually have multiple answers that kind of come to mind. I mean, I wish I understood the value of customer input to the extent I do now. So to give you a little example, to add some color there, your customers often have a plethora of problems that they're facing on a daily basis, pain points, right? You commit to developing solutions where you see the most common pain points or the biggest pain points, and you have some expertise that you can solve that problem. Just in general, as a broad software concept and what companies aim to do, are the ones that listen to their customers anyway. And often when you're deciding what you're going to look at for your roadmap and whatnot, it's so important to take that customer consideration into account. And I really didn't understand how powerful that was earlier on in my career. I've always viewed roadmap as a function of I spend a lot of time thinking about the way people are going to be working 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and dictate my roadmap that way. And you really need the other half, if not more than half, is listening to the problems that your customers face. And if you have a good dialogue with them and they trust you, they'll really tell you what their problems are. And I wish I knew that earlier in my career. I mean, it would have just accelerated my learning on that front, and it's been super powerful.
Yeah, I love that because creating a vision in a vacuum doesn't necessarily work when the customer input and the crowd, the wisdom of the crowd can be incredibly beneficial as well.
Yeah, and it's no longer build it and they'll come, right? It's got to be you really need to in the modern world of software anyway, you really need to adapt to the trends going on in the market, your customer needs that are changing so quickly in this environment, and build from there.
It's a really, really great answer, Tim. Looking back over the span of your career, who are some of the people who have been influential to your career path, your growth, or just people that you enjoy listening to in terms of their thoughts and their guidance?
There's a number. One of the ones that comes to mind frequently is one of my former bosses at my investment fund, and he went on to he's pretty high up at Shopify now, which has obviously been on an absolute ride of a lifetime there. It's been a tremendous ascent for that company, and he just provided me with more context in how to look at the world and how to look at companies and markets. And I tend to frame a lot of the way I look at the world through spending so much time with him when we were working together. And again, there's a whole number here. I mean, some of our board members are individuals I've known for a number of years and have really shaped the way I look at the world and do things on the business side. We have a board member named Carl, who he worked at Microsoft a number of years ago and been very instrumental in my lens, providing the lens the way I should look at things, and he obviously just has a wealth of experience, and I spend a lot of time bouncing ideas off him and chatting with him, and he's super helpful in certain areas where I'm weaker. Everyone has certain areas they're not as strong in, and it really helps augment my skill set in that regard. And I think there's a whole number, but those are some of the ones that come to mind first. So.
No, that's great, and really having that sounding board of people with a different set of skills. I urge everybody to go and do that. That is a wonderful practice to develop for your own personal development too. I love that you've called that out.
Yeah, and you know what? Everyone needs a good mentor, right? And there's no ideal mentor. It's someone that you can learn something from, in my view, and they have a skill set that you necessarily don't have. Someone you trust and can really, understand the context of the situation you're going through. Will take the time to listen to it, because every situation is different. You can't just go read a blog on something and apply it to your business or your problem you're facing, because the context isn't there for your unique situation, right? So if you find a good mentor, a good individual, they'll take the time, listen to you, can have regular check-ins. We have a great advisory board who I do this with as well quite a bit, and they really take the time to understand the problem, all the inputs, and then provide a recommendation or advice, or maybe you figure it out just in chatting with them and posing the question. You kind of talk through it, but
isn't that always totally nice?
Unbelievable, yeah, for sure.
So who is the ideal customer for Colligo today? Like, who are the types of companies that you find yourself working with?
Yeah, it's really the mid-sized enterprise to large enterprise is our ideal customer. Anyone with a records management or a governance need for managing their content. It's if you think about what we do, you can break it down into three buckets, right? We help classify, capture content, and then it's the access or the management piece of that content once it's been captured, right? And we're finding it's our sweet spot has long been the records managers of organizations, the information management professional. What we've really seen in the last year and a half has been the law firms and legal departments of the enterprise. And you think about the volume of contracts and business content with business value that they're dealing with. Well, all of that needs to get into SharePoint. Yeah. Often if it's not for regulatory reasons, it's for some other policy, internal policy reason. And we help them provide those tags as they capture that content, right? So it's not just the productivity of making it easier for them, as much as that's a big part, but the tags are really what helps, leveraging metadata and sensitivity labels and retention labels, and that's really where companies tend to benefit from our solutions. I think the reason why it's the enterprise as opposed to SMB is just the sheer volume of records and data and content is so much greater that there's a much more acute pain point. So that's typically what we see the most, and how we think about our ideal customer, if you will. So.
Dealing with the velocity of information, just that. Yeah, I love. I
like the way you put that. So
I'm reflecting back. Tim, I'm going to throw you into what is a new segment here on the strategy of information. And I have not told you in advance any of these questions, but it's the segment that we call On the Spot. What it is, I've got 10 questions for you, Tim, and you give me one-word answers, and you answer them as quickly as you possibly can. First answer to pop into your head. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Cats or dogs?
Dogs, all the way.
Number 2, favorite flavor of ice cream?
Ooh, cookie dough.
Oh, good man. Cookie dough myself. Third, last big vacation you took. I'm assuming this is going to be a pre-pandemic.
Yeah, and probably pre-Colligo at that point, so it's been a couple of years. I gotta say, probably Miami, before it was the hot tech scene in the world. So
yeah. Brilliant. On your cell phone, text or talk?
Oh, talk. It's got to be, nothing like voice. Yep.
You're a pick up the phone man. All right.
Pick up the phone man.
Place that you've never lived, but you wish you had or are dreaming of moving to.
You know what? I would have said Vancouver before I ended up relocating out here. But yeah. You know what? It's got to be stateside California. I mean, spent a lot of time there. Love it.
Makes sense. It's beautiful.
Place on the list. So yeah.
Favorite food?
Really pushing me now. Good Italian pasta.
Love it. All right, and I tried this one with a previous guest, George Dunn, and I got a really fun answer. So I'm gonna pose it to you too, Tim. On a scale of 1 to Beyonce, how would you rate your karaoke skills?
Let's give that a -1. I think that's. I think I'm banned from karaoke in the country of Switzerland, so we will leave it there. But,
that's going to be a story. Yeah, we're going to need that story the next time I have you on, Tim.
Absolutely.
Number 8, rice or pasta?
Rice.
Brilliant. Cake or pie?
Cake. And I have some good recommendations in Toronto. If you're ever in there's some great bakeries that I could point you to. So
next time I'm up, I'm calling you up and you're going to tell me where to go.
Yeah.
All right, and last one to show the ultimate geekery that belies all of this work that you're doing at Colligo. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars, for sure.
Star Wars, man.
Yeah.
Good answers, Tim. You have been a wonderful guest, and this has been a great conversation. I would love to have you back sometime soon. Tim, where can our audience connect with you online?
Yeah, I agree, Nick. It's been awesome. Connect with me online, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm on Twitter, and those are probably the 2 best places. So, yeah.
Awesome. We'll be connecting with you on Twitter and LinkedIn. Brilliant. Tim Brady, he is the CEO of Colligo. Check out their products and learn more at Colligo, COLLIGO.com. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the Strategy of Information.
Likewise. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Tim. This was wonderful.
I hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Colligo CEO Tim Brady. You don't often get to hear from someone at his level with his background, so it's very refreshing. I thank Tim and the Colligo team for their support, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation here on the Strategy of Information. On that episode, I'll be talking with artificial intelligence education pioneer Shingai Menjengwa. If you haven't heard Shingai before, I don't want to spoil too much. Just know that she's an incredible educator, advocate, and human. I can't speak highly enough of her or her work. You'll just have to tune in to find out. Until then, I wish you the absolute best in all of your information endeavors.
The Strategy of Information is listener and sponsor supported programming. Subscribing to the podcast is free, but supporters gain access to every episode in HD video, bonus episodes, the occasional extended interview, merch like tote bags and stickers, and so much more. Head to infogov.net to learn more about supporting the program. Corporate sponsorship options are now available for Season 2 of The Strategy of Information. The Strategy of Information with Nick Inglis is available on podcast platforms everywhere and online at infogov.net. This has been a production of infogov.net.